Well, welcome back. Here we are in another phase of trying to get the animals down here. Well, behind me we have a wild forest. We've got skunk, we've got snake, we've got raccoon, we've got bobcat, we've got coyote, we've got everything that wants to eat my domestic animals. So we're going to bring them down and try to protect them and give them a safe area. Okay, so we're not looking for aesthetics here. The goats really don't care. What they want is safety and security. Well, how do we provide that? Well, first of all, we put them in a wooded area, which is their natural habitat. And second of all, we pick an area where we know that the livestock guardian dog can watch both the chickens and the goats together. So we've decided to put the chickens inside the goat pen. And then, once we move them down here, we need to make sure those animals identify that area as their home. That's where their food is, that's where their water is, that's where their livestock guardian dog is. And lastly, we're going to put it near the RV so that we can watch them at all hours of the day. So let's see how we do that. Well, some people ask us how we use our goats to clear land. And it's nice that they can eat all this down, but realize we've got to put electric fence up. So the first thing we got to do is actually cut a path through this mess. And you can see this, some of this stuff is probably 10 feet high. It's definitely above my head. So I picked the path of least resistance, basically. I try to get an area where I think I can get through, so I can get a nice electric poultry netting fence in here and electrify it, so I gotta have sunlight. But the tools I use, you know, the scythe, this thing is awesome. This is not a grass scythe, this is a field brush scythe. It takes up maybe 1/4 inch little brush and twigs and stuff, so it takes down quite a bit. Anything bigger than that, I can use the loppers and take it down. And then I basically keep going back, keep dropping things here. And I measure it with my measuring wheel because I have 100-foot lengths of fence and 165 lengths. So I want to measure it out so I don't cut too much or cut too little, because it's quite a bit of work, so I don't want to do that. And then I'll finish it off, usually with a weed eater if I need to, or I'll go back with a grass scythe. But there's so many little stumps and stuff here that I'm probably just going to finish off with that so I don't dull my grass scythe. But the big scythe takes away a lot of this stuff. Now the other thing is, sometimes I'll actually have trees across the path and I have to cut these, so I try to avoid those too. This was already cut for me, so I'm going to continue this path down, make a corner down there, and head back up that way. Look at that. It's a jawbone. Probably,
I would guess
boy, those look like
deer
teeth. Bottom row, possible coyote or something.
It's a pretty big coyote.
Yeah. Hope they don't come out to get us. So I tried to pick a path of least resistance and I ran into a downed tree. So I get the chainsaw, cut through that tree, keep going about 20 feet that way.
finishing touches here.
Now I know that looks like hard work, and some people say, why don't you just get a skid steer? Well, I could spend $30,000 on a skid steer and find a place to store it and maintain it. But you know what? Simple tools. Work outside is a beautiful thing, and it keeps you healthy. I don't go to the gym, and that took about an hour and a half, I guess, to do 400 linear feet, which sometimes it takes half an hour because, well, today we got some pretty thick stuff back there, and I had to work on that a little bit. But hand tools and a little bit of time, it's not going to hurt anybody. So normally you don't need to use T-posts with poultry netting, although it's sometimes a good idea. These goats are going to be here for quite some time. They've got plenty of food here. We don't have that many goats right now, and we need some time to work on the house. So we designed them to be here probably about a month. And as such, we want that fence to be extremely tight. It's also a lot safer for the goats because they won't get tangled up in a slack fence. Keeps the chickens back, it keeps predators out. But when you get thunderstorms, those thunderstorms and the winds can soften up the ground and blow this fence right over. But when you tie it off nice and tight between T-posts, there's no blowing over. It stays solid the entire time.
So we've spent the last couple hours really setting up the fencing for the goats and the chickens that we're bringing down with us. Now, obviously, we are starting from square one here. We have no barn, no stalls, no real fencing. So how do we make this happen? So what we've done is we've got 3 sides of the temporary netting you saw earlier. And then we have one side we're building out of these portable panels that we always keep around because we use them constantly. It allows us to hang a hay feeder. Now, there's plenty of forage here, certainly, but we honestly are not familiar with the forage in this area, and there could be some toxic plants we're not aware of. So if we provide a source of like alfalfa hay for the goats, for example, I don't have to worry about them being tempted to eat the toxic plants because they'll have a good source of feed here. We have their grain and mineral feeder, which helps home them into this area should they get out, in a windstorm. If our fence collapses, they know the grain. So if they're used to being fed here, they tend to return. We have a portable shelter we've used for years in our rotations. And this is great because we literally just throw it wherever we want it. I side the area underneath it to give them an access point. And it's just a nice, cozy little dome they can hide in. We put it under the shade so it doesn't turn into a greenhouse. But next, I'm going to show you the absolute ugliest chicken coop you've ever seen. It's this big blue dome over here. But what you have to realize is we are dealing with, again, raw, fresh land, lots of wildlife. We've already caught bobcat and raccoon on our cameras. So we know wildlife is abundant here. Iris is old now, our livestock guardian dog. So her work, we kind of need to help her out a little bit. She doesn't have quite the energy she used to. So what we've done is we've put the chickens inside the goat pen. That allows Iris and the goats to circle around. And as things start to clear out, it discourages predators from coming in through a double fence. We have used fencing the chickens cannot get through. We've got 2x4 wire on the gate. We've got 4x4 wire on the panels. And then we've put this cover. Now, Sean, if you want to duck under there, you'll see under the cover what we did was take a cattle panel and actually just kind of forced it up to support the tarp. Hopefully you can see that in there. It's a little dark. We just took some old feed storage bins we had and created some nest boxes out of them. I'll stuff those with hay when we bring the chickens. And then we've got our feeders, and when we bring the chickens, we'll have a waterer set up. So it's definitely a smaller area than what they might normally have. But the idea here is, let me shut this up. The idea is to have them completely locked in this little hut for 3 or 4 days. And what that does is allow them, again, to rehome and reorient mentally that this is where food and water and safety and shelter is found. After that, we can begin to let them out to forage during the day. But they still have this entire goat area to forage in before they get out of that next fence. So this is about the best thing we can offer to keep them safe, but it kind of sticks with their normal routine. So hopefully it'll work. Well, time is getting extremely close, and moving day is actually in about 48 hours. But tomorrow we are moving the animals down to the new farm. So right now we have, we've been waiting for all the chickens and a few of the guineas anyway to go into their barn for the night. We're closing them up, and we're gonna go in the dark and actually catch these and put them in the crates there behind me so that we can load them in the trailer first thing tomorrow and haul them south. So here we go.
Okay. On the trip down, we had to put the babies in a crate because mamas were fighting and pushing them up against the side. We've got guinea keets there. We've got chickens in all the crates in the gooseneck. And it looks like we kept it cool enough. We gave Iris a couple of jars of ice, and she laid on those. That kept her cool on the way down. And then the goats had some water. So we're gonna let the rest of them out. Hey girls, how you like it? How you like it, girls? I think she's having trouble with that other one.
This collar's too loose. But we're not gonna walk him. Come on, baby.
Is he kind of heavy?
Yeah.
A healthy little guy.
All right, go on, baby.
And they don't really go but about 2 feet before they start eating. So these are some happy goats. Now to get the chickens out. Still unloading, a lot of back and forth, getting the buckets, getting the hay inside the nest boxes. Goats are investigating everything they possibly can, trying to find the best food. Iris is actually in the chicken coop. Say hi, Iris. We wanted to let her go ahead and explore everything she wanted to, so she's hanging out there. She's already wandered off twice, so we put her in here, and about 60 seconds later, she pushed herself out the back gate and walked back around to say hi. Good old Iris. All right, so everybody's in there. The baby guineas are gonna be in the little crate for a while. I've got 2 nice roosts. There's a guinea already on a roost. The chickens, there's water in the middle. Now, Iris really loves it in here, so I figured, well, you know what? I'll leave her in here for a little bit before we leave. We'll bring her out, but she is loving life back there, so I'll just let her sit there. All right, that's it for the poultry. Well, the chicken that got away came back, but in this brush, there's no catching that chicken, and there's nowhere to corner him because we're out in a field. So I think he's earned his freedom, but I'm afraid he might get eaten, unless, of course, the mighty Iris, who just burped, protects him. Yeah, whatever. Well, this is it. We've hooked up the camper. We've done a lot of testing here. We feel real comfortable that we can do this down there. The men are leaving today, and we're going to set this all up and get things running down there. Water, electricity from our solar system. And the girls are coming down tomorrow because one of my girls is getting her driver's permit tomorrow, so don't want to miss out on that thing. Oh well, here we go. See you later.
We 3 girls are officially changing address today. So we're following the guys. They went down yesterday, but this morning we had to go and get Michaela's driver's permit first. So she is having her first drive. She's gonna help me drive down. We're gonna let her stick with the back roads. We'll work on freeway later. And then of course we have Rosa and Kyla back there. And way in the back, I've got 2 big crates for cats. So they're actually our old rabbit cages, but we weren't able to take the cats down previously, so we're taking them down with us today. And we put 2 cats in each of 2 cages, the 2 cats that got along best, essentially. We've got one who likes to pick fights with everybody. But as you can hear, it's pretty noisy. So I'm hoping they'll quiet down after a while. They're clearly not real thrilled with this drive. But the adventure is officially beginning. So we got the cats all set up here under the camper. We've got 2 kitties in each cage here. And then this morning we released one of them, our most tame, to let her kind of explore, but it would draw her back since her buddies are still here. This afternoon we're going to start letting the others go, but we wanted to kind of let them home in and be calm before we released them, because the last thing we want to do is have them disappear off into the woods. But this is how we're integrating. And so far it seems to be working, because Copper here is sticking around. Hi, Copper, kitty, kitty. Well, the goats and chickens have been here for 3 days. And last night, just before dusk really, we opened up the red gate there. And you can't really see it here, but it is cracked open just a little bit and then all blocked off to keep the goats from going inside. But the chickens can come and go. So they are finding their way around, and so far nobody has escaped. It's a little warm out today, so the goats are panting a bit, but the young ones seem to be enjoying all this forage, and then the older ones go and eat the forage and then go lay down and just chill in the shade. But the guineas, amazingly, are also staying around, probably because they haven't all found their way out. But so far, it's going well. We had 1 guinea roost in this tree here last night. That twin tree back there right behind the blue dome. She was about halfway up it, so they're kind of figuring it out. If we can get them to roost there a couple nights, then hopefully they'll stick around long enough to make a dent in these ticks out here. Hi, tickies.
Well, 3 weeks into this, and I would have to call this a raving success. We have not, or as we know, have not lost anything to predators. Iris has done an outstanding job, and every once in a while in the middle of the night you'll hear some barking and you might see some eyes in the woods, but they don't dare come across that electric fence or challenge our livestock guardian dog. Now the goats have a rumen, and they can't necessarily switch directly from grass into this forage type. So what we've done is we've taken some alfalfa pellets that we had in the barn, we've kind of transitioned them over. So the first week or so, they were a little leery about eating this so much, but now they're really diving in wholeheartedly and loving it. The chickens, the guineas, they seem to stick around, where I know a lot of people have a problem with that, but good thing, because when we got here, the ticks, the seed ticks, the tiny little ones, and the chiggers were just out of control, and we were infested with them. But within about 2 weeks, those ticks and chiggers have all but disappeared. And I can only attribute that to the guineas and the chickens being so close to the RV. Well, our cats are sticking around too. We kept them in a cage for a little bit, and once we released them, they stuck around, which is good because they've been killing little voles and mice. They've been finding mice around here, which is critical because the RV can really get a problem with mice, especially up in the insulation and the wiring. Not a worry with the cats. Well, thanks again for joining us. We are really loving it down here, and we love all the support we get from our subscribers. Thank you so much. We learn a lot from you. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, because we've got a lot of interesting stuff coming up here at Redgate Farm 2. See you next week.